Welcome back, folks, to another episode of Business from the Bass Boat on the Serious Angler Network, powered by X2 Power. And guys, today we've got an awesome show lined up. We're starting to get into that fall season. Fish are putting on the feed bags. It should be a fantastic season, as it always seems to be this time of year. Lakes are starting to turn over, and the fishing gets fantastic. So I encourage you, if you're not in the woods chasing critters around, get out, go chase some big ones. But on today's show, I'm really, really interested to have this conversation because it's something that I have interest in just with what I do outside of the podcast and fishing is on the finance side of things. And specifically the lending side in the bass boat world. And so without further ado, we'll bring in Todd. Todd is the founder of RecLending. I'm sure you guys have seen this before. It's been on some boats. I've seen it places, but just talking lending when it comes to bass boats and just how this all works in the market. Love to get a breakdown from him and go from there. So let's see if we can get Todd in here. How's it going, Todd?
Hey, Adam, how are you?
Doing really well. Excited just for the rest of the season here. We had talked a little off air. You're about ready to go chase some big smallmouth around.
It's time.
It's the time of the year.
It's time.
Man, so you're going to be, you were talking a little bit, northern Michigan. So how are you going to catch those fish this time of the year as you get into right before stuff starts getting really, really cold?
Well, if it's like last week, I caught them all on a big stick with a jig.
Wow, big football jig?
No, just a plain old swim jig. And,
no way.
And they had to be laying on the bottom, and they take the rod out of your hand. It was so much fun. I hope the bite continues that way, but oh, it's just so much fun.
Oh gosh, yeah, and those things too. There's nothing better than, especially because so many times when we're chasing smallmouth, right? It's like light line, spinning rod, dragging you around the boat, all this kind of stuff. When you can have that window of 20 pound and cracking them with a big stick, like that is some fun stuff.
Well, I'm not going to tell you where I caught them, but
sure.
But they were in 4 foot of water, and lots of them. I mean, lots of them. And matter of fact, I think there's a camera crew and one of the more favorite fishing shows up there beating on my fish right now.
Oh geez.
So I'm sure I don't think he'll show anybody, but it'll still be a good show.
Be ready to prepared to see some big ones being caught. That's what you're saying. Awesome. Well, Todd, thanks for coming on and talking RecLending. Something that we've gone into bass boat insurance stuff on this show. We've gone into bass boat sales in general, electronic sales, kind of everything around this space. And I'm just curious how some of this finance stuff comes to be and what guys are looking for and what they should be looking for when financing a boat. But I guess to start things off, let's talk about how it all started for you. Where did the idea come for RecLending and how did it all begin?
Well, when I got out of high school, I knew, like everybody else, I started fishing with Dad, and I was hooked. And through college, I started college with the thought that I was going to be an architect.
Okay.
Don't giggle, but yeah.
Hey, I've got a friend that's a very successful architect, so I got you.
It didn't take me long to figure out, though, that I was not meant to sit behind a desk.
Sure.
And actually, I had a theories of matrices teacher pull me aside one day, and he says, "You need some discipline in your life. You should join the military." That afternoon, I joined the Marine Corps.
No way.
I did.
Okay.
And asked my wife to marry me at the same time.
Wow.
Don't do that, by the way.
That is not a conversation. So wait, which one went first? Did you tell her that you were joining the military, or that you're?
I told her, Jody, I've joined the Marine Corps and we're getting married. I didn't even ask her, and I paid 38 years in now, and she reminds me of that daily.
Wow, that's fantastic.
But even then, fishing for me was a passion, and even everywhere we went in the Marine Corps, I mean, I still fished. And when I got out, I knew that I had to find a way make a living in the fishing world. And back then it was the money that's in the sport now wasn't there then. And so you had to win your way through things in order to afford to do it. And for as much as I enjoyed it, I just wasn't that talented. I mean, and didn't have somebody with deep pockets helping me. So I did everything that I could to stay in the industry and around the industry and still be able to fish. And I'm not going to lie. I mean, we were broke a lot of the time because I spent money fishing. And
right.
When we started, just before we started RecLending, I was the champion bass boat rep.
Okay.
So my territory was down and through Indiana and Ohio, all the way over to New England. And it was huge. And I mean, back then, or at that time anyway, I mean, the reps were 100% commission and your expenses were yours. And I mean, we literally spent our entire savings to make this thing work. And then Genmar, who's the parent company for Rangers, Stratus, Champion, all of them.
Yeah, all that at that time.
One day we woke up and they were bankrupt. And
wow.
And we were broke. We were just trying to make ends meet. And I guess like anybody, I sat down one day with my wife and I said, what do we have that we can capitalize on or maybe make into something? And I'd worked at dealerships. The last dealership I worked at paid me through the finance office. I was the general manager there, a big bass boat dealer here in Michigan.
Okay.
So I understood the finance world. So I had some knowledge, and I had all these dealers that I had a relationship with that transcended the champion. I mean, we were friends. I mean, in the fishing world, there's more friends than there are business partners, and this was no different.
Right.
So I'll never forget it. I was sitting at one of my dealers and my phone rang, and the dealer said to me, he said, I've got this guy, a boat that I'd sold him. He said, I've got this guy. He wants this boat. We're having trouble getting finance. Would you look at the deal? And I said, sure. So he sends me all the stuff and figured it out, ended up getting it sent to the lender, got the guy approved, got the boat sold. And I won't tell you the dealer's name, but he said, you ought to do this for a living. I said, I did for a long time. He said, no. He said, you got to do it for dealers for a living. And I thought, you know what? That's an idea. So, I mean, there isn't there's not a format for this, and there wasn't anything that I could copy, and there wasn't anything that we could buy off the shelf. So we started just making it up as we went along. And I don't mean it. I don't mean that haphazardly, but we had to find the softwares. We had to find the means of communication. We had to find all the little pieces and procedures that go into place to make it to make a deal go from a distance. And at that point, the remote was remote was the flicker on the TV. Nobody knew what working remotely was. So we started with some dealers and fumbled our way through it. And as we began to develop the dealer stuff, more guys and more folks, the Bass Boat Central, Texas Fishing Forum, Facebook was just coming on. All of a sudden guys were reaching out and their dealer wasn't able to help them. Okay. And so I had to try and find a way that we could do these, that we could help these guys that were buying a boat either from a dealer or from an individual, or just to facilitate the deal. And I say this with humbleness. This industry is very, very, very important to me. And every one of those guys, every one of us has the same vision, standing up on the stage, holding a great big check, and that's their dream. And it's my job to move it to the next level. It's my job to move it to the next place. Well, he may never. 90% of the guys that we deal with are never going to make a living fishing.
Sure.
But I won't be the dream killer. I'll be the guy that tries to make it as easy for him as I can. So,
yeah. So
we started approaching banks, and 90% of them, bankers are odd ducks anyway, but 90% of them would literally look at you cross-eyed like, you can't do that. Why would we can't protect our interests? We can't, that thousands and thousands of excuses they gave me. But slowly but surely, one or two of them would come on. One or two of them would get the vision. One or two of them would trust me. The issue of trust comes because typically with a normal boat deal from a dealership,
okay,
the dealership has the product. The dealership is the funded entity, so he gets the monies that for the contract is sent to the dealer to pay that boat off. Okay. When you take just some bald knucklehead in Michigan who didn't have the assets at the time to underwrite it, somebody had to trust us. And before we know it, we had, in 2008, it was ugly. I mean, it was really ugly. But
yeah, I mean, you're starting a lending company when the housing crisis is occurring, right? Banks are going under, tightening up completely. I mean, that is, and so, not to backtrack too much, but when the company you worked for went bankrupt, as far as reps, boat reps, that kind of a thing. I mean, was that tied to that same recessionary period of just, stuff was going downhill quick?
Dealers were, interest rates on the floor plan. Floor plan is how a dealer's boats are financed.
Okay.
And the interest rates were going up. They were being very pointed in how they checked inventories and dealt with inventories, and dealers just couldn't keep up with it. And interest on inventory for a dealer is always a big cost of doing business. But as that interest goes up and they're not selling as many, it becomes crippling. And so even more so on the manufacturer side, because now the dealer can't afford to buy more. Now he's not going to replace things quicker. He's looking for instant. If I can sell this boat today, you got it in stock, can you ship it to me? That kind of stuff. And manufacturers aren't set up to work that way.
And so sorry to cut you off, just to explain that a little better for folks. So, and that's something that I didn't really understand until I kind of got into some of these conversations with dealers. Yep. Everything is done on a finance perspective, right? So the longer that deal sits, you're paying interest on everything, on that boat, everything, to then go ahead and sell it. So you're saying that's that same way on the manufacturing side as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Everything is, and so when rates go up, right, like that expense, as we all know, I mean, interest rates, each percentage you go up, it's a significant difference in your payment. And
I literally had dealers that their floor plan companies had taken them to almost 2 points, which is 2% each month. So each month. And that's honestly, that's kind of what our mindset was when we started. This would be a way for the dealers to get a chance or have an opportunity to get more stuff going and move things along quicker. And by doing that, it also helps the manufacturers so they can build more. And we had altruistic plans in our head, and it has evolved, obviously. Sure. But even though it was 2008, what we found out was that there was more need for what we were doing in the bad time than we ever thought. I mean, dealers wanted help. They needed help. The guys that were looking to, the guy that normally would have went to his local credit union to borrow money, now that credit union's not doing boats, because guess what? We're in the middle of a recession.
Sure.
And now he can't buy that boat he saved 5 years to get the down payment for, or whatever. And it to be honest, it kind of snowballed on us. And even though it was ugly, in everyone around us, the rates were going up, and dealers were going out of business, manufacturers were going out of business, everybody getting bought up. I mean, I remember Gary Klaus started. Gary and I and still I consider Gary a very close friend, but at the time he was starting Phoenix.
Wow.
And we went and drove one of his new boats in Ohio. And I remember the conversation was, I said, what are we going to do? And he said, he looked at me and he goes, what else can we do? We're in the boat business. We got to either make boats, sell boats, and finance boats. He said, so what are we going to do? I said, well, you're right. And he was right. We didn't have a choice. We just had to keep going. And yeah, I think the fact that either myself or Gary, the time that you spend in an industry and the people that you meet in the industry and the folks that you get to befriend in an industry, I think that's what got you through the tough stuff. And I don't know. So from there, our business branched in two different directions. So our business model has two income streams.
Okay.
So we have the dealer business where we are the dealer's remote finance source. So just like anyone else, you go into a boat dealership or a car dealership or whatever it is, and you go into the finance office and you make arrangements with the finance guy to finance whatever it is. We do that remotely for dealers all over the country.
Okay? I see. And this is all boat dealers, bass boats specifically, where did it go from
bass boats are 90% of what we do.
Oh, wow. Very cool.
And it's not that we don't do the other stuff, but it's what I know, it's what I understand. And all of my employees, all the folks that work here understand that that's where our passion is. And so many of them fish. I mean, we have 20 employees and I bet 12 or 14 of them all fish, and awesome. And they get it. I mean, so when a guy calls and wants to talk about his boat and he's excited and it just clicks and makes sense.
Sure.
But the other income stream was the person to person stuff, which was absolutely new to the business. I mean, there was no one out there that would offer. You could find a boat from Montana in Oklahoma, but when you went to your bank to finance that, they looked at you cross-eyed like, nah, we can't do that. And
because it was this in a different place.
I mean, it's a complicated process, and there's titles and registrations and taxes, and there's all kinds of things that come into that. But for whatever reason, we figured it out, and we've made mistakes, and we're still going to make mistakes. But typically, it's probably as smooth a process as you could do. I mean,
wow.
But and it grew, and it keeps growing, and yeah.
That's fantastic.
I wouldn't have it any other way. I mean, I love what I'm doing.
Yeah, that's awesome. So really the two streams, and to this day, right, you have your dealers, and are those all over the country kind of a thing? Are they pretty local to you?
Oh, we've got dealers all over the country. I mean, wow. We don't do anything, obviously, non-CONUS. So Alaska and Hawaii are out.
Sure.
And every year it grows. And I anticipate we're coming into a really bad stretch or for our country, for our economy. Yeah. And I don't anticipate we've grown every year. We've grown between, I'll say 10 and 14 or 15% a year.
Wow. And
I really am anticipating that we will exceed that going into 23, because they're going to need help. And for the first time since 2008, I'm probably in the best position to help them that I've ever been in, and I've staffed for it accordingly, and we'll roll up our sleeves and get it done for them.
And so when you say they're going to need help, what are you referring to there? Are you talking about the dealers themselves or your client base when it comes to purchasing?
Both. And to just to get off track just a little bit,
yeah,
we're poised for the perfect storm economically.
Sure.
We're coming off of 2 or 3 years of incredible sales. So there's dealers out there that couldn't get enough boats. There's manufacturers who couldn't make enough boats. I mean, the product is not in the field, and there are hundreds of boat dealers that don't know any better. They don't know that this stops, that this can come to a screeching halt. And there's equally as many folks in the manufacturing segment that don't know any better either. And they're still building as many boats as they can build. They're still trying to sell as many boats as they can build. They're still inventorying as many boats as they can inventory. And that's going to bite us. And it's not what it's, I have no hesitation saying that is going to bite some dealers and some folks this year and some manufacturers. But
and that's because they've been in this sunshine and rainbows kind of environment, right? Where sales come easy. They can just turn and burn and go. And then therefore you're saying like they're expanding, bringing on more employees, increasing all this stuff because it's going, and then it shuts off.
So the manufacturers haven't peeled back their capacities yet. Okay. Cause they're still in that for the next 6 months, they've still got all kinds of boats that were on order that were sold that they have to deliver yet.
Okay.
And the dealers, some of the dealers, I mean, again, not necessarily the bass boat dealers. I'm talking the pleasure boat and pontoon dealers, the big boat dealers, those kind of things.
Sure.
They're worried they're not going to have stuff to sell again. So when the pontoon rep calls and says, I need an order for 30 pontoons, they say, can you get them to India? Well, yeah, we think we can. And he orders them. I don't know is that buyer and the market is going to be there next year. I don't anticipate that it's going to be. I think it's going to be a whole lot different. And then that 15 pontoons that the dealer didn't sell, he's paying interest on, and that's a big number. And it's just gonna. And then as those prices diminish, like I anticipate that they will, that spills over into the guy that wants to buy one who can't get his local bank to finance it. So I see lots of dealers reaching out for help. My dealer inquiries now are probably up 50% for the past 3 months. So dealers are already reaching out and asking for help. And the person-to-person stuff is starting to have a different look to it. I found this boat. I got to get it tomorrow. It's going to be gone. It's done. And now it's, am I getting a better, this looks like a good buy compared to the past 8 months. What can we do? So looking at stuff in September, October, November. So
sure.
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
That's what this show is about. That was incredible. I mean, so to me, like something that I just relate to, maybe more so just from a personal level, right? Like I've been here recently looking at investment properties and more on the real estate side of things. And so like, right, it's become a lot more of a buyer's market. Like for a while there, it's a seller's market completely. I mean, you had to come in way over asking to buy a place. At least in our market here in Colorado. And then now that's starting to shift, right? And it's much the general population on who can afford a home. Interest rates have gone up tremendously from what they were at. So therefore your buying power gets declined from a lending perspective, but because of that, there's a lot less people buying homes. Market's starting to come back, and you're able to come in and, like you said, get a deal. And I think that's the same way in the bass boat world. I mean, it was crazy there, right? I mean, used boats were selling for astronomical numbers. It was very hard to buy a boat because it was so competitive to get a boat, and supply chain issues and all that stuff. But you're basically anticipating and starting to already see that stuff's kicking back, right?
Oh, it's changing. It's changing.
That folks can say, hey, this is a good deal now. Like I'm willing to not go and pay overpriced to go get it tomorrow.
A big piece of what we do too is we field lots of calls a day, and lots of guys are looking at stuff. They got questions about how the financing works and those kind of things. But we help guide them through the buy. I mean, it every day somebody will come in and they're paying way too much money for a boat. And granted, it's their money and they're welcome to do it if they want to, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to tell them I think he's paying too much for the boat.
Yeah.
and that's not to protect the lender or protect us. That's just for him. I mean, for crying out loud. I mean,
yeah, that's just you saying, hey, look, man, you do what you want at the end of the day, but like a little high priced.
Yeah. Well, and inevitably, we talk to hundreds of folks a week that are looking to buy a boat. They have one that they need to sell, or so all the loan processors keep a list of stuff that's out there, and we're an odd bunch of ducks fishermen. So there's that guy that wants to have an all red 521 with a show on it, and so they keep lists of them, and we try to keep that moving for them. So
I got it. So you're saying like a little internal list of boats that guys are maybe looking at selling, and you're like, oh, guys, look at it. Like that's awesome. I mean, that's like in any sales group, like maybe real estate guys who are like, hey, this might be a situation that I'm interested in, or that kind of a thing too.
Oh yeah, or all our dealers will call me, and they don't let me do any deals anymore. They don't let me finance anything anymore. They don't even give me a rate book. But
what do you mean they won't let you buy a boat? You're saying, or what do you mean?
Oh, they won't. The processors and all my employees won't let me work a deal anymore. So all I get to do is talk on the phone and put out fires and whatever. So all the dealers will call me when they get a boat coming that they know is going to be one that we can move. And they'll call and say, I'm sending you pictures of the boat I just got. I'm in it really, really right. Can you get it gone for me by tomorrow or by Tuesday or by whatever? So it's fun.
Wow.
It really is fun.
That's fun stuff. Oh, I love looking at bass boats. It's a problem. I bought a Phoenix over this last year, and it was like a 7th month era for me of just looking at deals all over. It's a fun thing, right? To hunt deals down and look for something and find a situation where you can buy right, and in that kind of a situation.
This year's boat, I just ordered my 47th one.
Wow.
And I've always said, if I sleep the night before I pick up my new boat, it's time for me to get out of this business. And I'm still as excited about 47 as I was about 46 and number 3. And
wow,
I think that's what makes fishermen different. I think it's
a passion, man.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it is. I mean, and the boat is just as much a part of the passion as the fishing is. And something about that sparkly fiberglass just does guys in. I mean,
it does.
It does, guys. My wife don't get it. She doesn't understand it, but she's only been on a boat with me. We've been married 38 years. She's been on a boat with me 7 times.
You have that number on the top of your head. 7 times.
7 times.
Wow.
So she just doesn't have any interest in it. And it's not that I wouldn't take her or we wouldn't go, but the first time I put her in a boat, it was raining and I had to make a 9-mile run up a river.
Oh, well, that's going to ruin her life, Todd. Come on.
I ruined her. I know, but, or maybe I didn't.
Yeah, that's a good point too. Depends on how you look at it. Wow. Okay. That's, thanks for all the insight there. And I think too, someone with your experience in the industry, from literally being on the sales side and looking at a situation like 2008 and on the finance side and dealing with dealers and boats every day. I think that's important to hear from folks, or to get out there for folks that are interested in kind of the future here and to see what exactly is going to kind of happen, and just to kind of prepare yourself on what you want to do with next year's situation. So
there are many of the guys that you would know and guys that you get to watch every weekend. Many of those guys, when their boats come up for sale, they'll holler and say, hey, I'm turning mine over. My new one's ordered. Find somebody that's interested. Take care of it for me. And so, yeah, kind of cool.
That is really cool. That is really cool. Well, let's get into just what does traditional bass boat financing look like terms wise? Where are things kind of sitting right now, just out of curiosity, rate wise? What are kind of the things someone needs to be prepared and looking at when they're looking to finance a bass boat?
Well, the lenders are tightening up at the same time as they're raising rates. And what I mean by tightening up is for the past 2.5 years, they didn't ask for proof of incomes. They didn't ask for proof of residencies. They didn't ask for, they didn't pay so much attention to what your how long you had in your job. So when banks begin to tighten up, they begin to refine their process and ultimately make it more difficult for us and for the buyer. But as long as our job is to navigate and negotiate that process ahead of time for you, so that you know it, so that the buyer knows what it is that he can expect. Right now, rates are up probably 3% in the past, I'll say 2.5 or 3 months. Mm-hmm. Typical A tier, but I mean best buy rates are somewhere in that between 6 and 7 now.
Okay.
Terms are really funky, and I guess if I could explain it to a bunch of people at one time, I'd like to do that. But terms are based on the dollar amount borrowed.
Okay.
So typically a dollar amount up to $25,000 will qualify for 10 or 12-year terms. Okay. Yes, that's a long time. You don't have to take that though. Okay. So you can take anything under. So, and I'll expand on that in a second. From 25 to 50,000 qualifies for 180 months or 15 years. Okay. Same programs apply. Over 50,000, 20-year, 240 months comes into play. Okay. I cringe every time I see somebody talking about 240-month term on Facebook about, go write a check for it, do this, do that. I mean, why would you want to pay for a boat for 20 years? I've financed every boat that I've ever bought for 15 or 20 years, period. And have never, not only I turn them over quickly, I get that. Okay. But here's what I'd like the folks to do. If you've got, sit down at your kitchen table with your wife and come up with a budget. Okay. Not a payment budget, a budget. Okay. Jody and I did that with my first boat and said we could afford to spend this much money on a boat.
Okay.
The first boat I bought, I think my payment was $180 a month. And we budgeted $500 for that boat payment.
Okay.
I still made that $500 payment because that was what my budget was. But we began to gain equity in those boats as we did that.
Sure.
Okay. They're simple interest loans, so that anything over my payment came off of principal. Mm-hmm. Therefore, I paid less interest on it. So if the buyer can be very precise on what it is that he's going to dedicate to his boat, he can negate the interest, whatever the new interest rates are that period. Because anytime that you overpay a loan, you blow that bank's or that lending institution's interest schedule up. It comes apart. It's based on 180 payments once a month for however long, or 240 months. The minute that you mess with that, the interest schedule gets blown up. I mean, the rule of thumb is for every 10% that you add to your boat payment, you save yourself 20% in interest and time. In other words, you'll cut your overall interest payment down by 20%, and you'll diminish the amount of the loan by 20%. So instead of a 180-month loan, now you've got a 120-month loan or a 125-month loan, whatever it works out to. But
and your interest rate, you're saying also, so you're reducing that interest rate by 20%.
Absolutely.
And the time frame by 20%. So if you're at 5%, now you're at 4%, kind of a situation.
So to be honest, you can isolate yourself from the raises in the interest rate that we're seeing right now, almost categorically. and not feel as much of the hit. Now your payment's not going as far, or you're not getting as much boat for that same payment that you did 3 months ago. Sure. But if you're specific about how you look at it and have a very serious conversation with your loan processor, yeah, it works. I mean, it really works.
Yeah. Well, that's an interesting school of thought, and it's something that I wrestle with too, just with everything, right? When it's like comes to, if you are in a position cash wise, do you spend that cash or do you finance it? And like my kind of school of thought has always been like, there's good debt and there's bad debt, right? Like good debt, real estate, things that are going to invest in and grow in equity, and there's bad debt. And in my head, that has always been toys, but that has changed, especially with my tournament fishing and things related to that, treating this more like a business. And then also other opportunities, right? It's like, okay, if you are in a position, I'm not saying this is me, but especially for folks, like there's no secret around the tournament fishing world, there's some folks that have a lot of money, like to do this, to play this game. Like it is not a cheap thing to do.
No, it's not.
And a lot of business owners, a lot of folks who are very familiar with that and running businesses and doing their tournament fishing on the side. And I still come across a lot of guys that are paying cash for their boats, and that's how they prefer to do things. And then you see the other side of things on guys financing, and then also treating their fishing like a business and having that depreciable asset and doing it from a tax perspective. So I think that that's something not talked about enough, though, as far as with what you're saying, is paying down that payment in advance. You're really reducing your interest rate over time. So makes a lot of sense.
Well, I mean, God bless the guys that can write a check for them, but even at 6 or 7%, there's places my cash can work harder. And I mean, there's some real opportunities getting ready to come into good God, stock market's not going to stay this low forever, but no. in real estate, it's going to come back down. So sure. I've especially going into bad times, I like to sit on cash. And I'm not trying to give financial advice to anybody, but sure. but thus far it's worked well for me. And I'm able to afford a new boat every year and without making my wife crazy, because I got these giant boat payments, and she's seen it, I don't know how many times, 47 times, and it's worked, and we have not gone backwards. And so I don't know.
Yeah. I like it. I
do worry about some of these kids. I mean, some of these kids, I mean, oh man. I mean, yes, you can get a fully rigged 21-foot boat's $100,000 plus now, and $35,000 of it's electronics. And I don't know if we've set that bar high enough or too high for those guys or not. But if I had a piece of advice to give them, a good boat with good electronics doesn't have to be a new boat with new electronics, and grow yourself into something. Because I'm not going to lie, they get my butt kicked every week by some kid in a 10-year-old boat who just knows how to use electronics. So
no, I've always believed in that school of thought. It's definitely not the boat that makes a guy. I do think there's something to be said about warranties and things that can come into play on a new boat, but don't put yourself in a big hole either.
Can I address that warranty thing just a little bit too?
Yeah, absolutely.
We all break stuff. I mean, stuff breaks, and if you buy a boat and are under the impression it's not going to break, then you need to sit down and do some soul searching, because it does. I mean, I just broke my 360.
And it blows me away. I was having this conversation with a friend the other night, and it's just like, if cars broke down as much as boats did, there would be no one driving on the road. Like no. It is boats are just a different beast. And it's not like we're bass fishermen, right? We run them hard. We're running through big waves. We do things that aren't exactly the best situation. But my gosh, I don't care if you've got a 2022 brand new boat or a 2005 boat, like things break and it just sucks.
And we're hard on them. I mean, and we demand a lot of them, but we have put together some pretty good warranty companies.
Okay.
I've got them that'll go out to 10 years old, and they cover motors and they cover equipment. And the approach that we've always taken with it is, yes, it's a profit center, but on the dealer side of things, the dealers tend to, as you buy from a dealer, and it's for them, it's a huge profit center. I'd rather make a couple $100 on one and know a guy's got a warranty. And I'm not going to lie to you, I get heat from so many dealers about what we sell those warranties for, but I don't care. I mean, it's the difference between a $6,000 or $8,000 power head being the end of a guy's year, or it being a 2 or 3 week, delay. And a really good friend of mine that you'd know if I said his name, but I won't. Yeah. I'd ask him one day, I said, what do you, I said, what's our business? So where do I draw the line? I mean, where does business in this industry start? He said, if it's fishing, it's our business, period. He said, so do all you could do to keep the guys fishing and do all you could do to support it. And he was dead nuts on, and warranties play into it.
No doubt. That's a cool program to hear about too, because I think that you see too, another, like we're talking about, right? We're talking about the ability to have some more buying power going into 2023, and the chance to pick up a boat if you're especially if you're not really feeling necessarily some of the effects of the economy. There's plenty of industries that are booming right now. And if you are interested in getting a deal, and I think that a lot of times you see a lot of boats being sold right at the end of their warranty period, right? Like very common thing, motor warranties coming up within that 6-month year window, guys are selling to get into the next boat in the next warranty situation. So if there's that ability to give you some more peace of mind and have a used warranty situation, I think that's a great niche, Todd. I mean, that's a cool
one of the things that we see in the bass boat world is bass boat guys are always going to have a boat, and they may delay how long they keep a boat, or they may when things are good, they may shorten that. But either way around, the better chance that we can give them to keep that boat that extra year when the times are going crazy, that's just good for the industry. That's just good for us, and good. It turns out being good for that kid who's trying to fish and work 40 hours and put a kid in the private school, I hope.
Yeah. I mean, that all makes sense to me. If it's good for the industry, you're in the business of it. Makes a lot of sense.
So do you ever make your way up to Michigan?
I have not. I've been to, let's see, in the Northeast, I've been to Champlain. I have been to the St. Lawrence River, but I have never, to my knowledge, I fished in Minnesota. I've never fished any Michigan waters. I'd love to get on St. Clair. I'd love to get onto some of that stuff, but I haven't. That is a place that I haven't spent much time fishing.
Well, you should try to. It's it really is we're so blessed. I mean, it's just that it's a special, in the spring and the fall, it is
as good as it gets.
It is. I mean, have you been to Mexico
for bass fishing?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, good God.
El Salto.
You got to try that.
Those places. Yeah.
You got to try that. That's
crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. I got some pretty good stories too, I can tell you.
Yeah.
Last time we were there, my gallbladder blew up on day 7, about 4,000 feet up a mountain.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So did you have to go to a hospital in Mexico?
Oh yeah, I had emergency surgery in Mazatlan.
Oh my gosh.
My wife was a little nervous.
I'd imagine. Were you not nervous?
I was in so much pain. We were literally 4 hours up a goat path in the middle of, well, the lake is owned by the cartels.
Oh, really?
In
what lake is this?
Commodore.
Okay.
And I mean, they treated us wonderfully. And yes, it was a 4-hour trip down the mountain in a van that shocks were 20 years older than they should have been. And yeah, we had a flat tire, but we made it down. And it all went well, and nobody got hurt, and I didn't die.
Yeah.
And and the guy took great care of us, but it was still pretty stressful.
No doubt.
Communication's an issue because I don't speak Spanish, and my wife, I couldn't talk to her. I was out, and so the guys I went with, were keeping her in the loop, but it worked. I got home. I didn't miss my flight. Got home, recouped.
Wow. So that in that, like, I mean, how does this is way out of line with what we're talking about, but like, how does insurance work out of country? Is that a thing?
Oh yeah. At Blue Cross and Blue Shield.
Okay.
And actually that's a really good part of the story because one of the fellows that I went with, he's a dealer here in Michigan, Mitch Gorham. He owns Montcalm Marine. Yeah. And he had a cursory or knowledge of the Spanish language. I mean, to the 3rd or 4th grade level, probably. And so when we got to the hospital, he came to me and probably more information you need to know, but they all call me little buddy. Okay. They're all big guys. And he said, I need your driver's license, your passport, and your credit card, and your insurance card. And I said, okay. And at that point, I was hurting so bad I didn't care. And he come back and he said, well, they want 100,000 pesos before they'll treat you. And I said, Mitchell, I don't care. I really don't care. I mean, that's like $4,000 American.
Yeah. Let's get this dealt with.
And he come back and he goes, I got an idea though. He said, I think I can negotiate with him.
No, he's negotiating your about to be surgery.
He comes back with a credit card slip for me to sign for 50,000 pesos.
Cut it in half. Let's go.
So I called my credit card company. I said, don't let them charge it unless you talk to me. I mean, that's Mexico. Okay?
Yeah.
And so the surgery goes out. Everything goes fine. I mean, they close out all the paperwork. I get home and they had a subsidiary here in the United States so that they could bill Blue Cross and Blue Shield.
Okay.
And my wife walks in 3 weeks after I get home, walks in, she hands me this piece of paper and she's got this, I can't believe this look in her eye. And it's a bill for, they had paid however many dollars of it, a bill for 5 digits that we had to pay for that Blue Cross didn't pay.
Wow.
So I called Mitchell and I said, I finally got the final bill. He says, what? He says, no way. He said, fax it to me. So we faxed it to him. And we didn't talk about it again. And I had some time, so I was kind of letting it lay. And about a week after that, I got a check back from Blue Cross and Blue Shield for $1,800 because Mitchell had called Blue Cross and Blue Shield. So the whole thing cost me about $1,200.
Oh my gosh!
So
you start doing surgeries in Mexico and have your buddy Mitchell represent people.
I don't know if I do that again, but it's a great story. It's a good story.
That's fantastic. Wow. That is crazy, Todd. Yep. I can't believe that.
And we caught the snot out of him. Oh. I mean,
was it at least towards the end of the trip when you had your gallbladder issue?
It was the last day.
Okay, perfect.
It was I got in the boat. I got in the boat the last morning, and I just didn't feel right. And the guy I was fishing with, we were that morning. We were going to a place we called Jurassic Park. I mean, it just looked like dinosaur country, and giants lived there. Okay, I mean,
what a name.
And God, the first 3 fish he caught you caught an 8, 8.5, and a 9 in like the first half hour. And I told him, I said, man, I just can't, I got to go back and lay down. I'm hurting. And they took me back but yes, the last day. Wow. So I missed 7 or 8 hours of fishing, but you know what? God, we caught snot on him for that. So
yeah.
I got a scale. I got a scale with their best 5 one day that I got one of the Rapala scales.
Yeah.
That I've retired because I don't want to clear it. But we had our best 5 with 58, 13 or something like that. But I mean, it's insane. It's just insane.
That's insane.
Yep,
that's not even real. Wow.
Yep.
Wow. Awesome. Well, Todd, we'll kind of wrap things up here.
Okay.
To start, how can folks follow along with RecLending? Where do they reach out if they're interested? Maybe they're talking about a boat right now and are trying to get things lined up to be pre-approved. I mean, how does that process work?
Well, the website is reclending.com.
Okay.
And all the phone numbers, all the contact information, all that stuff is there. Even if they don't have a boat picked out, but they want us to do a soft pull and look at what their credit looks like, give them an idea what a boat loan would look like, they could just fill the app out. Once they fill the application out online, someone from here will call them and do all the verification, all the legal stuff, have a conversation with them about what it is they're trying to do, what kind of payment they're looking for, what kind of boat they're trying to find, or what they've got, or that'll be the you tell us what it is that you're trying to accomplish conversation. Okay. And from there, we'll either send them shopping, or if they've got a boat already, then we'll get it sent to a lender. I can't emphasize this enough. It is very rare that any of our applications ever go to more than 2 banks. Okay. I'm hyper protective of everyone's credit. Okay. And everyone here is the exact same way. I demand it. And we're not here to do damage to anyone. We're not here to hurt anyone. We're here to help them. That's all. So all of my folks make it a point to understand what each one of our lenders' appetites are for a boat loan. Whether it's how long a guy's been on his job, how long he's been in his house, income he makes, what his credit scores are. They know all that stuff. They kind of put it into a matrix, and these are the 2 best lenders for them.
Sure.
And economically, the 2 best lenders for them. Mm-hmm. Once that's done, they'll have another conversation with the buyer about what it is that we have. What down payments are involved, what terms are available, what the payments would look like, and what warranties are available, those kind of things. But at the same time, they're talking to someone else is going to be having a conversation with the guy he's buying from, or the dealer he's buying from, and gathering that information that we need from them. Copies of titles, a buyer's order from a dealer, registration copies, all those things that we need to know. Is there a lien on the boat? All of that behind the scene information, plus it introduces us to the fellow that you're buying the boat from, and communication between all of us make sure that the entire process goes incredibly smooth. Our goal in this is to make sure that there's as little for the buyer and the seller to do as we can make possible. We'll do it all for them. We calculate taxes, we do titles, we do registrations, we do all that stuff in each deal. We pay the taxes in each deal. For most states will let us do it. Some we've still got to,
as part of the loan, you're saying.
Yep.
Okay.
Then typically we produce contracts. It's either an emailed version of a contract, or it's a DocuSign. And most of the time, 3 to 5 days from start to finish, or from start till the time that we were able to move money or dole out funds.
Yeah.
So it can happen pretty quick. Every once in a while, we get a panic one where I got to leave in 2 days, and we can still make those work. You just got to let me know ahead of time so that I can accommodate.
Gotcha.
But my folks have come up with probably as smooth a process as this industry's ever seen in terms of getting it done. And no, you're not sitting in front of me, so time and space is still an issue. But every one of them picks up their time or picks up their piece when it's their time, and it works. And kind of cool.
That's awesome. That's a cool system. And I'm sure it's been trials and tribulations of figuring out that exact route and what all that works. But I like that concept of making it as easy as possible and doing everything on the back end on your side and getting a good experience out to the customer.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Todd, the last question that I ask every guest that comes on the show, 3 biggest smallmouth, largemouth, spotted bass, where you were when you caught them and what you caught them on.
My largest smallmouth was Lake St. Clair.
Oh, yeah.
It's a 6'3".
Heck yeah.
It was in the fall. I think I've had bigger ones on. I just
awesome.
Pardon my expression, but I get a case of the tight ass of them giants. I got an 11 pound largemouth, Mexico.
Oh my gosh. That's
spotted bass. I had a 5'4".
Oh yeah.
On Table Rock.
Oh, that's awesome.
It ate a spook in 80 foot of water.
Oh man.
And missed it about 12 times.
Oh, jumping over the top of it.
I mean, blowing it 3 feet out of the water. I mean, yep. My dad was with me when I caught that one.
That's awesome, man.
Yep.
That is awesome. Well, Todd, thank you so much for taking the time out and coming on the show, explaining insurance stuff. One question, last question I did miss when we were talking terms and stuff. What's traditional? Obviously, this probably depends on your credit score, income, all that. But how much should folks be looking at just as a general down payment on a boat? What percentage of that boat?
Industry standard's 10%.
Okay.
There are lenders that will do that have zero down programs, but you're going to pay a premium and an interest rate for it.
Sure.
Right? So banks are banks. Everything that they give you, they're going to charge you for. But there are some that even if they charge you an extra quarter point for no money down, they still have you should still look at what it looks like in the matrix and how the payment works out, because it might not be a bad thought. And there's others that will bonus you for putting more money down, or 20%, or for taking less term. So if say, for instance, you're approved for 180 months, but you choose 120 months, they'll bonus you a quarter or a third of a point in rates, so they'll reduce that. So
sure.
Typically, the way that we'll structure a loan when we send it to a lender is we'll ask for the most amount of money for the longest period of time with the least money down. And they will tell us what it is that they want and what their requirements are. And then when the folks have a conversation with you about what the loan looks like, we plug it all into a matrix and say, by doing this, it changes the payment to that. So it gets pretty fluid. So if somebody can say, I've got $5,000 I want to put down, I'd really like a payment about $300 a month, and I'd really like all those things. By plugging it into the matrix, it really lets them get a look at how a little bit of money or a lot of money changes what their boat payment looks like, what the finance looks like. So
sure.
Yep.
Awesome.
Use 10% as an industry standard, and know that that's flexible.
Okay. Got it. All right. Well, folks, if you have any questions, I will have RecLending's website in the description. You're welcome to just click on that link as well. And with that, Todd, we'll have to get you back on down the road a little bit here. I'm curious to see kind of what this.
We need to go fish.
That's exactly what we need
to
do.
Go fish. I mean,
that sounds better.
It's fall in Michigan. Holy cow, they're chomping. That's what I need. Let's talk about getting to Michigan. That sounds fun. That'll work.
Awesome. All right, Todd. Have a good rest of your day, man.
I thank you. Appreciate you.
Absolutely.
Bye.